So welcome, 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 our brilliant colleague, Kema. We so appreciate your remarkable work and your consistent leadership in our community. And as always at SETC, we begin all things by giving thanks and honors to our creator, to the original stewards of the various lands we're on, to all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation, to all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So Kema, can you please introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers and share a bit about your remarkable work?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I appreciate you giving me the space to share my story. So Kema Joseph, I'm a government relations consultant at Crestview Strategy, which is a public affairs firm with offices across the country and the States and in London, and now recently, or soon to be announced, in Kigali in Rwanda. So I have been at Crestview for 2.5 years. In terms of what government relations consultant, what it is, it's really helping organizations, association, companies navigate government, whether it's to change legislation, whether it's to ask for additional funding, to stop legislation. Myself and my colleagues, we help folks better understand the government process, because of course it can be very obscure or complicated or tedious work to do. And prior to that, I worked in Mayor John Tory's office as his stakeholder relations and community outreach advisor. So really spent my 3.5 years in the mayor's office, connecting his office and the city to various community groups across the city, but like, of course, focused primarily on Black, LGBTQ2S, Muslim, Somali communities. So groups that I found through conversations that didn't feel like they had a strong relationship with the city or didn't know how to navigate their ask to the city. And so I really ensured that that relationship was mutual, so could benefit the community and the mayor's office. So to summarize, I'm really someone who tries to bridge the gap between our communities and government and those who are in positions of power.
That's incredible, and you represent us well. So we appreciate your consistent leadership and your commitment to community economic development and community development in general. We really appreciate your leadership. So my next question, what's inspiring you right now? What has you curious, or what keeps you up at night?
Oh gosh, very good question. What is inspiring me? So I was in Ottawa last week for Black History Month. The government hosts every year. They host this massive celebration, and a number of us go to Ottawa, community leaders, organizations, etc. And the amount of Black staffers within the government, not only federal, but provincially as well, and of course at the city, is something that really inspires me. I remember when I was first entering the space, there was very few of us, if any of us. And so it's always very warming to see how many of us are in these hallways of power. And beyond that, it's organizations like Operation Blackfoot and the fellowship that they have. I know Urban Alliance also has their fellowship at the city, introducing racialized folks to these roles that exist within city council. So I guess it's really the next generation of folks who are entering these spaces, and really seeing our political power expand is what is inspiring me. What has me worried, or keeping me at night, I think, is beyond this new generation transitioning. I think it's how is us as a collective getting best positioned and ready for a likely election or a likely change of government. Like, what are we doing to build bridges with the conservative governments, or provincially here in Ontario with the Liberals? There's going to be a number of government elections across the country, but also internationally. So what are we doing to ensure that we're not taken aback if there's a change of government, that the progress that we've built with, let's say, the Liberals federally is not being completely removed or reversed. So what are we doing to protect our gains and not letting, like I said, there are people in these positions of powers who can help us best position ourselves and also help us translate what's currently happening politically.
I couldn't agree more, and I agree with you. There's so many gains that have been made by remarkable community leaders and stalwarts, and we have to make sure that none of our challenges or issues become partisan, where it's only one party can support the change that's required to create greater justice, access, inclusion, diversity, decolonization, equity, all these things. So I couldn't agree more. Thank you for your context and leadership once again. So my next question, what challenges and barriers do you face in your work, and what are some of the approaches you're taking to overcome some of these challenges and barriers?
Well, I think it would be no surprise to anyone that, government relations, public affairs is a very white space. And so I'm often the only one in spaces. And so it's having to explain, to this context generally that Black organization, Black companies, Black leaders matter and, do have the capital to spend. And it should be a market that we pay attention to. Um, not only because of what's going on the continent, but like how much space Black folks are taking in Toronto or across the country. So I think translating that value in a way that makes sense to the context is a challenge of mine, but vice versa. How do I get Black organizations, Black companies to see the need to invest in public affairs and government relations, especially when it's something that's not often seen as tangible, that is often seen as like, and yes, it is an additional cost, but it's primarily an investment in terms of building bridges with government. I think oftentimes our relationship as, Black folks, equity-seeking groups, our relationship with government is primarily through like funding grants or seeking funding and less about how do we shape policy and so someone like myself or public affairs firm like Crestview can help um, guide that way or help shape the strategy to tap into how can we best expand our relationship with government. So it's how do I help both sides understand the value in investing um, with each other, really.
That's remarkable, but very challenging work. I can only imagine how daunting that is. I
Yeah.
empathize completely. But once again, we give thanks for your leadership and that's serious work that you have to do on behalf of so many. So my next question, do you have a set of key priorities right now in your work?
I think priority number one is mentoring, people that look like me who are interested in the space, whether it's again through the 1834 fellowship or the fellowship at the Toronto City Council, providing that space for them to come and reach out to me, ask questions, whether it's how do I navigate the space, how do I, what is next for someone who wants to enter GR, also introducing the profession of government relations. I think as someone who wanted to be a lawyer, I think we often see success in very specific professions, whether it's, lawyer, doctor, etc. I think we are all familiar with that pathway. And it's like, public affairs is also being a consultant is also a different way. So how do we expand, young people's understanding of what success is, especially in spaces that may seem, again, what's the word? Hard to conceptualize if you're not actually doing it, if you're not connecting with someone who's doing it. I think it's easy to understand what a lawyer does because it's so prevalent within public discourse or just the media that we consume, and lobbying is often portrayed in a very specific way, which is very American. Lobbying in Canada is definitely not the same. There's a lot of rules that we follow. It's very much more regulated than it is in the States. So introducing again the work that I do and introducing political, the political world, like being a staffer, helping folks understand that campaigning, that the experience and the insight that you gain by connecting with people who are in politics and how that opens your way of thinking and navigating the game that is politics. And in addition to mentoring, I think it's also getting folks to understand the need for us to start building bridges again with opposition parties as we head to what is likely going to be perhaps not this year, but definitely next year there will be a federal election. And how do we get over our fear of interacting with the conservatives? Because I think we are very comfortable with the liberals, and liberals have been, especially this liberal government, has been very progressive, almost much more so than the NDP at times, or trying to out-compete the NDP in terms of how progressive, but how do we mend our gap or this perceived gap that we have with the conservatives? I think there's ways for us to overlap our priorities, but we need to take the first step.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you for your candor and your leadership as always. So my next question, how do you feel about the future of government relations or public affairs in terms of our community and how we engage? Are you optimistic? Are you hopeful? Are you pessimistic? Like, how do you feel?
I'm very optimistic. I've been able to, during my time at Crestview to onboard a number of Black-led and Black-serving organizations. And so I've been able to, you know, see the fruit of their labor, like see how me supporting them can help them reach the objectives. Also see, being able to coach folks in terms of, yeah, it is tedious work. It does take a while to build relationship, but once you do, you are on that list of stakeholders because government is very um, cautious with who they engage. And so when they have built that relationship with you, if you gain that credibility with them, you are going to be asked to attend a number of things or to speak on certain things. And so it's if you put in the work, you will become a key stakeholder to government. And I think I also see, again, like I said, the number of young Black people within the space who are interested in the work that I do, who see me or, my former colleagues like Brian Detu, who is now at the Chamber of Canada's Chamber of Commerce, and who see us, doing media and things. And so I think it's through who are being now introduced to the space. And so I see us taking more ownership of this profession, taking more space and shaping it to our priorities and our needs. So I'm very much optimistic for the potential that our community has within this profession and within government relations as a sector.
Ashe. I couldn't
Yeah.
agree more.
Thank you.
So my second last question, what is your ultimate goal? And what does success look like and feel like to you and your colleagues?
So my ultimate goal is to truly increase the political power and influence of Black folks within this country. So I think, and to also help us understand that there's other tactics available to us in terms of pushing government, shaping, again, policies that make sense to us or that are essential to us. I think, and you touched on it in your land acknowledgement, that our ancestors had to fight to be at the table, whether it was through protesting or grassroots advocacy. And we are at the table now. And so it's like, how do we leverage other tactics to build government? I think protesting brings us to a certain place, but I think there's other tools or other ways for us to shape and influence power. And so my ultimate goal is to help build that political acuity, to help understand political landscape, to also share the insights and share the political intelligence that I get through my colleagues to community. Oftentimes it truly is who within being within the circle and being part of the network. And I am part of that network now. And how do I ensure that that information is shared to a broad range of people? So we're best positioned. We're not last to the party in terms of what needs to be done. So my ultimate goal again is really just to help build our community, my community's political power within this country, for us to be taken seriously as a stakeholder by government. Because oftentimes, I'll be very honest, we're not, because we haven't figured out how to play the game, and I want to help share the rules, cheat codes to communities. That's my ultimate goal.
It's incredible. Thank you. Thank you. So my last question, do you have any closing thoughts or calls to action for our listeners and our viewers?
Reach out to me if you have any questions about whether it's government relations, if you want mentorship, if you are interested in what I shared in terms of, what the political landscape is showing in the next, 18 years or 18 months, rather, 2 years. Please start thinking, if you are the head of an organization, an association, Black-led community group, how do you best engage opposing party in an opposition? And if you want the Liberals to win, how do you then engage with the party to ensure that they do win? How do you volunteer, reach out to the Liberal Party? I guess truly my call to action is we have to be involved within the political process if we wanted to reflect, or at least pay attention to our core priorities. We have to be part of the process, and we have to be part of the system. And it's reaching out to your MPs, reaching out to our MPs in opposition, volunteering, campaigning. You just need to be a lot more involved.
Thank you so much, Kema, for your consistent leadership,
Yeah.
your solidarity, and your remarkable vision for our community and your dedication. I couldn't agree more. If we want representation for our taxation, we have to be civically engaged. We have to be
Yes.
civically inclined. And yeah, you represent us well, and you make our ancestors proud. And just thank you for all that you do for so many.
I really appreciate that. Thank you. It was such a joy to chat with you. So thank you again for the invite.
Absolutely. And as always at Setsi, we close the way we began by giving thanks to our creator, by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We acknowledge all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. Thank you once again. So appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.